All right. Is that it? Three people? There should be more coming, hopefully. There's Riaz. That it? That's it. Looks like. All right, folks, we're going to start on these liturgies today. Got a bit of a reading to do for the first one. The second one that we read is a little bit smaller than this long one. This is the Rahim al-Qudsi. This was the very text in which the Fuqaha, the jurisconsults of Aleppo, used as evidence against Suhrawardi and his claims. This one gets fairly explicit. There are several parts of it where it sounds overtly like the Quran in the original Arabic, and there's very little, at least my reading of it, and the next few that we will read afterwards. There's little doubt that Suhrawardi was making some kind of a claim in it. So let me read this. This was my rendering from the manuscripts, and particularly the Hagia Sophia 2144 manuscript, which is the oldest of it. It took me a while to reconstruct it. The gentleman who did a thesis on this, this Polish fella, Łukasz Piatak, made a complete dog's breakfast in several key sections of this text. So it took me a while to reconstruct it, and also because the subsequent copyists of the manuscripts that I cited had also misread quite a number of things in it. But I reconstructed it and then translated it into this, and pretty much all of this into the King Jamesian diction that you find in here. I hope you had a chance to read the introduction and Corban's own introduction and orientation from his L'Archange Pourpre, the Crimson Archangel. So here we go. The sacred inscription. Bismillah Nur al-Anwar. Rahim al-Qudsi. He says, recite thy inscription, O talisman of humanity, for thy inscription is the tablet of God, preserved in the consummate perfection. Sanctify God in the supreme luminary, and upon one of the twin horizons unveil remembrance. Verily, the stations of remembrance are borne witness by the cohorts of aid. No prayer ascendeth with weight unto God from one who turneth not to the countenance, nor will thy Lord be well pleased with a deed wherein another shareth. The king approaches not an offering without a sanctuary. The sanctuary of the men of God is not raised upon stones of construction. Nay, unto it belong the sanctuary sublime, purified, singular, which no hand of touch may profane. Render thou praise unto it within thy meditation, for in every polarity of opposites it hath endowed thee with the nobler of the twain. To it be the praise through the supreme watch. To it be the praise through the light outspread upon the footing of beneficence. Forsake that which draweth thee ere it drag thee, and cleave unto that which bindeth thee ere it bind thee. Compelled to forsaking for its forsaking, for within the expanse of light is sufficiency from the structure of the darknesses. And what the fellowship of the Orient of light, I love this phrase, Fitya al-Mustashriqeen, acclaimed as more exalted than death that bringeth forth life. For lo, a demise unto the one endowed with vision is gravid with his hopes. And the primordial magnanimity, and of the primordial magnanimity there is praise for a death that redeemeth, even as unto it belongeth the praise for the effusion of life. Those who set up equals for God a partner. Dualism, Thanawiyah, stands accursed upon the tongue of illumination. No body bears two hearts, no frame two souls, no heaven two suns. The ones bear witness to the one at the farthest verge of direct sight. Were two suns to rise, the pillars would be effaced. the order itself refuses it. If there were another sun, by what would another God appear? If the peerless, self-subsistent Al-Qayyum had a rival, where is its son? Thus, whoever speaks of a second stands helpless before the proof. Unify God, Wahad Allah, become brim with the light of exaltation. Establish the glorification, and let the lightning of thy luminary fall upon thy talismanic temple, as a tongue of fire in glorification, or the play of the coursing wind. Then lift thy head, it cries from the constellated sultanate of lights, like the blast of the trumpet, like the cry of a water wheel. So invoke God, divested of the vesture of the cosmos. God opens up that boasting ecstatic, Shateh, who trembles and flies, dares insolence against the Lord of Lords, disparaging the heavens and their motions. He is overcome and tossed about in stupor, yet among the worlds there endues a draught of sanctified wine, stirring eternal joy. Of it the brother of ecstasy attain not, if he be truthful, save the mere scent of drunkenness in the nostrils. So he fell, while the true drinkers remain sober. Where meaning is abundant, recklessness diminishes. When the tablet dawns before thee, beware the utmost wariness. For in the clash of the brave, never shall the coward prosper. Hold back thy haste, O thou greedy for the wreckage of the world, for thou art but the hireling of another. Thy body shall perish, what enslaved thee shall remain, and thy carcass shall be buried away, out of purity for the dwelling, lest it defile the ground of her house, meaning the soul. Why didst thou not give praise unto the daughter of holiness, that she might return unto her realm untainted by the leprosy of vice? For verily God hath forbidden unto the spirit of the first inscription the return of the transgressors unto their homelands. I sought thee, O sinner fair, yet thou didst not flee from it, and thou didst seek the foul, yet it fled from thee. Yea, the instrument of thy striving shall be taken from thee, for that which fled from thee hath escaped, and that which thou didst flee from is departed from thee. And the strong hand of God, the subduer, has laid hold upon thee. Thou shalt surely fall when thy strength faileth, and even that which thy desire hath craved whilst thou wert able. And thou shalt verily seek a turning, for when thy device is bound, then move. Commit it, that it may take from thee what thy right hand hath gotten, to deliver thee, yet it shall undo thee. And lo, there cometh the death of that which dieth not, and that which thou didst hope for is cut off from thee. For how shall the one perfected in craft hope for the undoing of that which perfection itself hath ratified? The light hath appeared, O brother of perversity, and thou art yet bewildered amid the darknesses. Hast thou cast out the righteous good by feigning thine own deafness? Insight sought thee, yet thou purchasest blindness with the sum of thy years. How dear is the blindness that is bought with life, and how precious the death by which life itself is sold. Glorified the Lord who outstretched the soul in radiance, then withdrew from it that which was more meet, who appointed the dusk, then encompassed the dusk with the dawn when it is rent asunder, and with the light when it rightly arrayed. Behold, this is the true and blessed morning. It hath risen, it hath proven faithful, and it hath filled the whole horizon. The peace of God be upon the soul that believed in the return. Not perfected is he who worketh by water, nay, perfected is he who worketh by fire and by light. For the light of God shineth unto soul, and the fire of God consumeth the defilements. God hath appointed longing as a ladder unto the light, and the light as an ascension unto holiness. He feareth not who maketh the supernal yearning his mount, neither doth he fall who ascendeth by the ladders of the lights. Had the perceiving essence been corporeal, it would not have disdained in its coursing the world of bodies. Not he is of perfection who knoweth not the causes. Rather, perfection is he who driveth the causes by the subduing of that which maketh them forgotten. And the lords were engulfed in the majesty of the light of the Lord of lords. It is not of the greatness of the king that its near one should be held in contempt. Nor is the king magnified in the sight of him who treated his people with disdain. Whoso abases that which God hath exalted among the worlds, God shall seize him for his ingratitude. Verily, God is the one who standeth watch over souls. It exacteth the due rights for the servants. Whoso swerveth from the truth goeth astray, and whoso inclineth within the truth is guided. For every cup there are drunkards, and for every sea there are the drowned. How vast the span betwixt one bewildered in the darkness, thrust away from the light of the sun, and one bewildered who disdaineth the causes. Do not despair of affliction, for it is the path of God. Upon it have the caravans of men passed. And if thou were to walk it, thou wouldst find their traces upon it and come to know their tidings. For every land upon which no downpour of tribulation hath fallen refuses to bring forth the growth of success. Goodly are the two companions in the purity of the journey, hunger and wakefulness. They weaken the forces that are the enemies of God by unseating their mounts, and they prepare the one who turneth eastward for the radiance of the dawning. Poverty is the scourge of God, wherewith it hath driven the truthful ones unto the most excellent of degrees. O thou who art charged with manifest utterance, patience with that which thou hast been commanded. Establish the remembrance, for none shall keep thee from it. And God destroyeth the infidel with his company. Hast thou not seen what the command of God hath wrought? He hath left the bodies dancing upon their heads, and the heads forsaking their bodies. This because God hateth that the transgressors of the age of ignorance, Jahiliyyah, those who turn away from the clear signs, should hold discourse with him. And God shall uproot from its earth the barren thorn of mischief, that it may plant the goodly crop and change the phantom rams of unbelief into the certainties of faith. God hath forbidden harm forever, and harm is banished from the religion of God so long as the heavens endure. That which bringeth harm is accursed in the tablets of divine scriptures. Upon it is the torment of the realms veiled from sight. Cursed of God is he who turneth upon his beast defiant in his purpose, and he who inflicteth pain upon his beast, and the one who waters the living, believing in their resurrection. And he who striketh a blow, seeking stubborn dominance. All these are an abomination. The religion of God was founded upon insight and upon the emanative outpouring of a just benefit, upon the negation of harm and injury. And upon this was the covenant of God laid upon those of old. From that hour of goodness therein was joined unto the highest, and thereafter unto the lowest. Whosoever keepeth the covenant of God shall obtain from it the most excellent of recompense. And the king hath inscribed in the tablet that the guarantee of the satisfier is that peril be restored unto its owner, and that a soul which ascribeth unto itself the attributes of that which is above it shall be clothed in the garment of abasement. Deal with those beneath thee according to that which thou hast hoped for from those above thee, and contend not with another for that which thou hast excused in thyself. When thou art bereft of shame, bid farewell to humanity. To worship God out of love is better than to worship it out of fear. For to act by intimidation is the habit of the ignoble. Work for thine own soul, for he is abased who hath need of an intercessor. Engrave, O human, thy dwelling with the best thou art able, and purify it from vile matters. For the worth of substances is by their forms. Suffer not an evil thought to run through thee as poison. Drive it away while it is weak, lest its strength overpower thee. Perceive the little matters before the great overtake thee. Walk, O thoughtful one, and turn about awake, and stand in the station of reverence, and thou being from the light shall be made and made replete, made full and made replete. Keep, O ye people, the trusts of thine secrets, that perchance you may become guardians of thine own trusts. Send ye greetings of peace unto the exalted fathers, and salute them with the salutations of the lords. O sons of the mothers, cleave thee unto the sun, so long as the heavens are illumined, when it showeth thee the lady of the constellations, the temples of light. Mediate thereon long, and take deep admonition, and ask her, how many of the mighty tyrants that she beheld before thee? The records of their names are effaced, the days scattered them, and the months devoured them. Surely, the death of the neighbor is a messenger unto his neighbor, and the parting of the fathers is a forewarning unto the sons. Their sorceress hath shown herself unto thee. Her light is palaces, or the bellies of her serpents are seed which yesterday has stripped from thee. And that which was hidden shall be unveiled unto thee, when that which was manifest is concealed. Seize ye thy fleeting portion. The eye of the wise man is above his head, and the eye of the ignorant is beneath his feet. The blindness of the wretch showeth him not the miracles, but if thou knowest thyself, thou shalt behold the mighty signs of God. O thou who hast led astray even that which was nearest unto thee, how far art thou from the farthest? Seek thou the fashioner of all in the nearness of the nearest, though it be the highest height, in the majesty and in might. The command of God is never hindered by thy own delay, O thou that fallest behind. But thou remainest naked of virtues. Stretch forth thine eyes, and spread thy carpet, and abandon the distractions that are daughters of darkness, that thou mayest behold the peerless self-subsistent, standing upon the head of the vesture, all of it on watch. Lo, the beloved hath sung, where then are the finders? This is the meadow of light, and the people are at play in the playgrounds of love. Despair not at the flight of the rabble, for how many a garden is great with child of sudden increase. When the knot is drawn, look then for its unloosing. Sell not the majesty of silence for the middling of speech. Praise be unto him who sold not the noble, abundant, abiding for the vile, meager, and fleeting. Yea, its utterance is of blessing, for if the praise be of God, then upon the praise itself is praise conferred, praise without end. Remember what Ibn Arabi says about uttering Alhamdulillah every time. Alhamdulillah is uttered, it is actually God praising himself. This is another version of the same insight by Suhrawardi. It was inscribed, the kindling inflamed with light, when the gate was opened and the pillars descended and the perverse factions were scattered. And the fire of God touched the heavens on high, and the moon was made full. For lo, it is the sign of the night and the unveiling of the sign of the day. And the hidden reality bore upward the glad tidings. The bearer of the sword of ignorance shall not be left to so ruin, nor the woman beguiled whose flesh in the way was cloven to cling unto his hem. And companies of fires, whose light was diminished and whose smoke was multiplied, began to be quenched by the blowing of a tempestuous wind. Then appeared the tranquility of God, Sakinatullah, making void their witness. And the lions of the adversaries were bewildered, seeing not the descending light that filled the pillar save in fleeting snatches. Then the witness of the sign saith unto the phantom of cunning, what is this troublesome matter? And he answereth, the emanator of all was not pleased that the wanderers should dwell upon its earth, and the mighty ones of the kingdom are wroth with the rams of blind ignorance. and the worshippers of the belly are accursed of both abodes before God with a curse. It cutteth off their hinder parts and turneth them back unto the veil of the barzakh, the intermediate world, laden with torment. Then returned the witnesses, and they questioned the person resplendent with the radiance of the angelic world, saying, O warner, utter forth the marvels, and cast down the firm ordinances. Who is he whom God willeth as an inhabitant of its earth, a visitor to his holy house which no hands may touch? And he answered, Verily, the elect of God, the chosen for vicegerency, are a company that render unto every soul its due as a means unto the kingdom. They are not puffed up against the truth, neither bow they before falsehood. Death doth not affright them, nor are they slack to lose the prisoner and to succor the distress. They gather not illicit spoil, neither make they a name by vainglory. They love the assemblies of thought. They kindle victory with victory and triumph with light. They behold the light from heaven, and they receive and they bestow. For them are gates of heaven set open, which the deluded behold not. When they ascend, they are enriched. When they descend, they enrich. Their gaze is upon that which is above them, and from its manifestation the meaning is obtained. Oh, what a glance is this, compelling, that draweth from height unto depth, and from depth unto height, to be fulfilled by the likeness of God in the order. If perchance such a gaze were tempered with mercy, it would equalize and gladden. Glory be unto the Lord of wonders, the fashioner of the existential particles. The days of God are 7, and each of the 7 is as 1,000 days. The 1,000-fold are encountered with the 6 that are prepared, facing the countenance of the throne established, full of signs. He that yieldeth the body in the path of God, and giveth the dearest of what he possessed, had readied himself for a spiritual theurgy, Rohaniah, whose station is mighty. And unto him is due beatitude, for the one that rewardeth in the balanced vision knoweth his quest, and hath had mercy on his plight, and accepted his striving, and recompensed him with noblest of rewards. Thus is every right rendered unto his right, and the mercy of God is above what may be hoped, surpassing the bounds of reckoning. In the heavens are the lights that are seen, lofty in their degrees, and in the upper kingdom are lights unseen and unfelt, shadows of lights imperceptible. Whoso walketh in the path of truth shall encounter at every flashing unto the light of holiness and outpouring of radiance into the mind of sense, save for talismans that steal away the dominion of powers. The head of reason is the light of God, and naught draweth nigh unto the light save light itself. The truthful knower hath declared unto thee that the essence of the first is the light of every light, not a light perceived, but a light that no sense comprehendeth, nor doth reason encompass it. Neither is it judged by end, neither is aught joined unto it, nor is aught severed from it. And its veil is the perfection of its luminosity, not of bulk, nor of distance, nor of measure. It is above virtue and above perfection, the world of God pre-eternal, Azal, which the embodied tread not. What is nigh unto it is a living unto its intellect, yet not living to live, the living that is not living, but therein abideth the living, the praised, alone. Unto it is the return of the souls made pure. The soul is the light of God, the living, the self-subsisting, indivisible. How then shall be divided? How then shall that be divided which breatheth by what is divided, or understandeth what cannot be parted? No form of singleness appeareth save in a mirror of singleness. The soul is the mirror of God, and the mirror of God is not as the mirrors of bodies. When the composition is dissolved, the one turneth unto the one. The verity of the soul is that it is the living, the subsisting, al-hayy al-qa'im, and the verity of the absolute living is that it is the living, the peerless, self-subsisting, al-hayy al-qayyum. Whatsoever exceedeth this is but assimilation or heresy. Turn thy thought unto the upper traces, and know God by the marvels of its signs and by the witnesses of the dread of presence. For thought hath no mastery over the God of the Lords. Thou hast remembered the pipes and the strings and the melodies of longing, offspring of holiness whose world is above. For had not the exalted likened them, the shining majesty had not overshadowed them, to cast its shade upon the dimensions. Sanctify thou God in the midnights and in the dawnings, and glorify it at daybreak, for verily the rosary of the dawn is the pathway of souls, the Lord of the sphere, the master of ballads, who hath granted thee the occasion of praise and of supplication. Glorify ye God with the trumpets that jar in might. Glorify ye God with the voices of delight. Remember, O thou virtuous city, thy Lord with thy ground gathered sounds, with shouting, with magnifying, and with exaltation. How calmly art thou, O city, resounding with the remembrance of God in thy markets, thy watering places, thy thoroughfares, thy houses, thy rooftops, when the head of the luminaries attaineth unto the rights of glorification. Cry ye aloud a great magnifying that putteth to flight the hosts of devils, that overthroweth the worshippers of the idol of tyranny, that thundereth against the vanities of masses, that shaketh the spirits, that stirreth the phantoms. For the republican shout of glorification is a commandment in the book of God, inscribed with utterance. Bayan, which that passage I found extremely interesting. I noted it if you read the gloss on that. A day adorned by illumination with the coming of the great sign unto the quarter of the east from the domain of dawn. With it 40 days are sealed, and the wayfarers were fulfilled therein, leaving behind what affliction they had borne for its preferment. A day of life, blessed of God, as upon the raisin steep within the thought of the righteous. Upon it was cast what the grinding had pressed from the head and the dwelling. Trim trees of Aleita or Aletheia, sanctified in the angelic world and blessed therein for the righteous and in the verdant brightnesses. And that was the greater part of a week of the rising of the rosary opposed, and light in the year and weeks the like thereof. And a people draw sustenance from it from the tree of Aleita or Aletheia, whose pillars God had purified and established. Yemeni, blessed. Upon it the flood of earth came in semblance, witnessed by that which Hermes buried, whereby the two worlds were made level. And the land laid waste, yet its waters sanctified by the exalted. In what the Holy One imparted from the traffic above is a message unto all from the temple, and unto the wandering stars that which they consumed from the air, a comfort for the lowly, whom the faithful companion upheld in astonishment and in gentleness, upon the name of the giver of life. All this is of the rights of God. O joy of hearts in the remembrance of God, the beneficent. God preserve thee, O quality fashioned in the likeness of the righteous servants of God, thou of the fragrances that gladded. Verily, thou art the gracious gift of God, claimed for the spiritual lineage made steadfast. The resolves of the seekers are toward the far one, who gathered the noble of awe, founded upon the tinctures of the city established in the upper regions, from whence flow the bounties of thoughts. God magnify its light, for whoso disbelieveth in its light shall not find upon the journey unto the hereafter the path of God stretched unto heaven. The seer borroweth meaning from the forms, even as the forms draw forth from meaning. The eye of my brother, in abstraction, floweth with water beneath the earth. When thou lookest from heaven, for the longing of the eyes of truth, the monasteries do turn. For had not longing ascended, what was low would have perished. Glory be unto it who hath bestowed becoming unto becoming, and permanence unto permanence. It hath bound events unto dispositions, and dispositions unto events, yet it is free from all change of states. What it ordained abideth, and that it ordained abideth. False are the masters of augury, for there is no partner with God in its craftsmanship. Neither is its beneficence restrained by season nor by circumstance, for both are of its beneficence. No impotence hath ever preceded its power, nor hath forgetfulness or aversion come before its will. For the truth is everlasting in existence. No accident ariseth within it, nor doth it uphold itself by helpers. God shall confound the profane in religion, and the denier of truth, and whoso hath taken aught beside the primordial nature of God, whereon it fashioned humankind. But had not the deceivers led astray, verily that nature itself had spoken forth with the witness of faith. And unto God belongeth the orbs of the orbs that circle, givers of bounty and revealers of form. And God is the establisher of images, and turneth the ages, the whole, and the cycles adwar. O ye dwellers of the earth, cast off the dominion of the heavens by departing from their intoxications. Drive away the cares of happenings with the drought of eternity. Hate not death when ye are orphaned, for it is the gate of gates. When the Lord of the high hand is well pleased, the talebearers are undone. God commandeth the watch, and is made pure for the one according as the one purified for it. Render unto it, and it shall be rendered unto thee. If thou yieldest thy reins, it shall make thee to know thy desire. If thou art devoured in passions, passion itself shall teach thee how it is. Yet the religion of God is the pre-eternal religion, Azali, which the anointed one, the anointed ones, plural, al-Masihun, or even when Adam's clay had not yet received its kneading, when the holy house had not been reared, veiled from the eyes of God. And this is where it gets interesting. The book of God is manifest. The heedless behold it, and the wise read it. By it is the Lord's thanksgiving as patient, and his satisfaction as contentment. And truth is the most manifest of all that is witness, and peace be upon the lights. The sacred inscription is completed. We'll read this short. The influxes of vigilant discernment, Orod al-Istibsar. Follows this. He says, God hath heard the cry of longing, and hath opened the path of unveiling. The kingdom of holiness hath drawn nigh, and the personages of light have spoken, saying, O God of every God, elevate the remembrance of the light, give the victory unto the people of light, and guide the light unto the light. From the real are the beginnings of the motions initiated, and unto it are the ends of stillness returned. The hour hath drawn nigh, the signs are made manifest, and Mount Sinai is rejoined in its convergence. And the recitresses say, O God of the differentiators, elevate the remembrance of the light, aid the people of light, and guide the light unto the light. The Lord alone hath shone forth by the Sinai of glory, and hath made itself one in the magnification of grandeur, and it ascended by its victorious might over every soul and intellect and body. And it hath self-disclosed itself unto every living one by everything in the nearness of its presence, whether of the most exalted heights or of the most lowly abysses. And the pure ones, as Zacchaeus cried aloud, saying, O possessor of the supreme similitude, elevate the remembrance of the light, and guide the light unto the light. God hath purified those who stand before it, and hath drawn them nigh, and hath accepted the holy ones of the illumination, and blessed the pine tree of the light, Sanubar al-Nur, and has sent benediction upon the lamp of the oratory, and sanctified the oblation and the praise. And appoint the herald of illumination, the rider of the Orient, to commune with the holy ones, to send down the success, to receive the command, and to proclaim at the oriental brilliances of majesty. Shuraqat al-Jalal. O originator of the all, and the end of the motions of the rising and the setting lights, elevate the remembrance of the light, aid the people of light, and guide the light unto the light. God hath made the supreme luminary a means and dominion, and cast upon it of its light. And there came unto it the angel of the vanguard of bodies, and it made it lord over the necks of the embodied. And by it confirmed the proof over the exalted ones. And it made the mediator of cosmic order, the fulfiller of life, and the cause of the seasons and of night and day. The sanctified souls implored of it and addressed it, saying, O thou all luminous person, whose face is ever turned unto his Father, ask of the bestower of intellect and of death and of life, and say, elevate the remembrance of the light, aid the people of light, and guide the light unto the light. Then was supplication lifted unto the sublime persons and lights, and the souls made entreaty unto the souls, and all made supplication unto the active intellects. For our principle is unto every encompassing one. And the petition of the ranks and the prayers answered is this: O effusing dispenser of the light and the blessings, elevate the remembrance of the light, aid the people of light, and guide the light unto the light. Amen. And that was the first two liturgies of Al-Waridat Al-Taqdisat. As you saw, there are, with the first two of them come to about nearly 63 glosses in total that I made, explaining what all of these mean. Most of them from my own notes over the last 28 years before I put this text together. Floor is now open, all yours. Whatever you want to talk about in terms of this particular text. Hussein, you want to go? Hussein, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I wish I had, developed my questions. I'm kind of just, there's a couple of things that I'm noticing along the way. Um, one is the kind of, it's a kind of dualism in a sense. I think for me it was when he was talking about death, but actually there's a kind of death that's also a kind of, it also is life. And I mean, my question going into it was, is death just seen as as a bad thing, simply? But it does seem like there's maybe different kinds of death. There's a death that leads to life, and there's a death that just is death. And I see that kind of, I think of it as really like I try. There's three different categories there, and this is the way I think Corbin exposits this material in The Man of Light. He says it's not just like light and dark, but there's two darknesses, and there's light, and I kind of see that in this notion that there's two deaths, but also in paragraph 9, where the imagery of water and fire are evoked.
Yeah.
Where I think of water as, I think of these elements in terms of like yin and yang, and I would say, well, there's nothing wrong with water. There's just like there's nothing wrong with the feminine or with darkness. But I suspect that maybe there's also like,
well, here in this particular passage, I glossed it. What he is attempting to suggest, when he says, "Not perfect as he worketh by water, nay, perfect as he worketh by fire and by light." He's making a criticism of the wudu, right? So water as an agent of purification in the exoteric rite. So those who are basically just washing their physical bodies with water in the exoteric rite of purification are not on the same level as those who follow the inner path and are being purified by fire and by light. This is what he said.
Mm. Okay, that yeah, putting it into that context makes it much clearer. But yeah, it was just something I was noticing, that it's not exactly a dualism, but there's a kind of
It's idealism. It's pure Platonic idealism. It's not dualism that there's two opposing principles of the universe in antagonism. It's idealism. Kind of stuff that irritates me philosophically about much of the Platonic tradition. It's this kind of stuff. Because I mean, the question is still lingering. How could imperfection emerge from the perfect, even if it is at the furthest distance of the emanations? But with Suhrawardi, he tries to kind of remedy that in a few places by saying different things about it. But ultimately, this world is a shadow of the light. This is the Kairawan. It's the well. Its inhabitants are oppressors. We must get out.
yeah, but also from the alchemical standpoint, it's like we need that, right? This is this is why I was thinking of water, even though it's a different context. But it's like we need that water, or that prime matter. There would be no fire without the work that we do on that lower material.
There's a Zoroastrian gloss about why water and fire, which are both seen in the Zoroastrian faith as being purifying agents, cancel each other out. And the answer that you get in some Zoroastrian texts is that because in this world there's an intermingling, right? And because the Ahrimanic forces have kind of penetrated halfway into this world, fire and water cancel each other out. Whereas in their luminous celestial reality, fire and water do not cancel each other. That's a classic Zoroastrian explanation. In the world of the Minoic, the celestial world, or Minu in the contemporary Persian way that that word is pronounced.
Yeah, I think I've encountered something like that. The It's not so much about leaving the material world behind as it is about purifying it.
Yeah.
Right, finding the true fire and the true water and true earth and so on.
Exactly. Yeah. And you find this, it's interesting because you find this exact symbolism in a lot of different alchemical traditions where they talk about the liquid water, or the water that doesn't, cancel out the fire, and the fire that cannot be extinguished by water. You find this a lot in alchemical texts, a variety of them.
Another thing that stands out to me is from the same paragraph at the very end, when he's talking about the causes.
Mm.
I don't know if I have a question about it, but it was just striking, this idea of the Gnostic being someone who driveth the causes. It reminds me of things that we've talked about with getting to a point where you can kind of see the causality, so that you can get ahead of things before they start to unravel.
Yeah.
And I think he mentions,
I like
he
the
kind of
way
goes back.
I like this. I mean, it's a beautiful way that he puts this. Not he is a perfection who knoweth not the causes. If you don't know the causes, I mean, even talking in terms of where you stand is you're so blind. But rather, perfection is he who driveth the causes by the subduing of that which maketh them forgotten. So not only do you know the causes, but you're being driven by what subdues these causes, which is the light itself.
Right. And then in the next paragraph, he also says, uh, the good kind of bewilderment is the bewilderment in which you disdain the causes, which is like the flip side of it. It's like, yeah, it's similar to his I think his attitude towards the cosmic hierarchies, that on the one hand they're emanators of light, but we don't want to be subjected to them causally in like, as you find in like Gnostic and Hermetic treatises. So disdaining but also worshiping at the same time. It's kind of a balancing act.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the last thing, I just had a question. I just noticed this as you read through it. Paragraph 12, he says, "Cursed of God is the one who waters the living, believing in their resurrection." And I'm wondering if that's a reference to Zoroastrian practice that during Nowruz.
That's a good observation on the surface, but he has a much deeper intention in mind. If you read the gloss, what he means by that, you know, if you're cultivating, if you're playing to the crowd, you know, that religion is a plaything, like what the clerics do in, say, a mosque or an assemblage of believers. They're cultivating life in the negative sense, right? The worldly, the dunya, right? So this is what he is condemning. Because they're not elevating people. They're basically keeping them trapped within the mire of the dunya, we using religion to that end. So that's what he has very specifically in mind. He's criticizing that.
But he is using this common practice, like a Persian practice, for making the point. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Good thing.
And thank you for making all of these translations and texts available.
It was on a to-do list for a long time, and you know, as you read the intro, I didn't have the manuscripts, and then I wrote some of this, and then I was being undermined by John Walbridge to try to get these manuscripts. It was quite a story, you know. But finally I got them, and then, you know, tragedy came with Roya's passing and put the whole project back by a couple of years, and I had other things to do. So, but that, you know, this whole class, so actually thank you, you know, because this class was the efficient cost to finally get me to hunker down and put all of this together. Finally, I mean, I had much of it already, but just to assemble it, you know, together, this class was kind of the instrumental cause. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Salam Sheikh. Yeah, so yes, my first question is very pragmatic. How'd you typeset this? It's very beautifully typeset.
It's just you know, in Word you actually do go into the layout function and you know, figure out your dimensions from an A4. And then you have, you know, then you can paginate it, and then also, you know, put your it's very easy to do with Word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that wasn't my only question. So on 5, he talks about the boasting ecstatic.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to talk about how the true drinkers remained sober, and I found that to be very interesting, because it's almost like saying, like,
I've been thinking about that passage for a very long time, because usually with most Sufis, it's the other way around. You know, the more ecstatic and unreasonable you become and lose your reason, the more you elevate. But with Suhrawardi, he seems not to believe in that. And I actually give him credit, because I have seen this myself amongst various Sufi circles, where people come and just get into theatrics. You get into a zikr and people play at ecstasy.
Yeah, yeah.
My own sheikh was very critical of such people. You know, ask people to, you know, kind of remove them from the circle, because you can't believe the kind of stuff that you see even in circles of zikrs, where you know, as you're zikring, almost a magnetism, and animal magnetism brings the worst elements of the nafs out with certain people who are not tempered. And so then you have either these ecstatics who are truly ecstatic, or those feigning ecstasy.
Mm-hmm.
And usually those feigning ecstasies are outnumbered the real ecstatics. And it came to a point, and my sheikh taught me how to spot these types. That they're not really in ecstasy. They're just trying to pretend they're playing. This is a theatrical thing, right? And I know this, and they know I know this, but yet they do this anyway. So this is what Suhrawardi is actually.
Yeah. So I was thinking of. It also brought to mind how, you'll go for these Muharram events. You'll see these you'll hear these ecstatic
Exactly.
exaltations of grief, and I'm just thinking, do you actually feel that way?
Yeah, this is in Iran. You see this a lot in a lot of Muharram. I mean, there are people who are genuinely they feel grief, but by and large, I would say a lot of people are going through the motions. And when a culture like that is so deeply ingrained, you cannot just simply go through the motions with a straight face. You have to also go through the motions of pretending to be affected. So you get exactly the same phenomena. People who are not really there, but they are acting and performing to that. Yeah.
Now, what I like about Suhrawardi is that he talks about this experience of extinction, but it's always very sober, right?
Yeah.
In a sense, it's very you never sort of see him lose his rationality.
Yeah.
Through everything, he's always got that awareness, and I guess my question is mostly pragmatic. So I wrote it. How do you make peace with God, the cause of all causes, when you're disappointed in pursuing something that you really pursued, even prayed for? How do you go through this path like that? How do you find that sort of?
Since I've gone through this many times and many issues myself, I'll put it to you in my terms. If you're a wayfarer, you have to sacrifice. And what you sacrifice is almost always what is most precious and dear to you. Otherwise, there would be no reason to sacrifice. If you don't care for something, there's no reason to sacrifice. So if you sacrifice something that is that you long for, an object or an outcome or a situation, be it that girl that you really want or that job that you really want, whatever it is, if you're a wayfarer, you will be asked, without doubt, to sacrifice. And the mettle of a true wayfarer, as opposed to one who is not quite ripe for this kind of path, is the one who gives it up. Even if they're complaining about giving it up. Doesn't matter. But you will be asked to give it up. And the thing is that you can complain, but then you will, in some other circumstance, be charged with a very similar situation, and you're tested again to see how much you complain. Right? So if the name of the game is detachment, whatever comes, whatever, the Lord of the universe comes to take away from you is part of taking that veil away from you. However much you love that thing, however much you want or long for that thing, even if it hasn't transpired, you will be asked to sacrifice for it. Because the goal is the one. And anything that stands in the way of that one for you, because even that thing that object that you pine for is ultimately a self-disclosure of the one. But for you, in your psychology, if it becomes a veil, you will be asked to remove it, or it will be removed for you. Yeah.
Right. Okay, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jeff, Mary. Mary.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I liked what we're talking about with the way Suhrawardi rebukes drunken ecstatics, because he did that also in the visionary treatises where he, or the main character, the stand-in, brought visions and divine knowledge before swine and cast pearls before swine a little bit, and this was pinned as something wrong that the seeker did, putting wisdom where it shouldn't have been. I think I remember Suhrawardi said something
Yep.
like,
He
the
said it
master will
here.
like rebuke someone who,
Yeah.
yeah, you'll get slapped on the wrist and turned away if you bring something to the wrong place.
So what's the question?
I just thought it was I think that might be why he rebukes ecstatics, because they're
Yeah.
essentially out of place.
Yeah.
And it was reminding me a little bit of these sort of like new age cult practices. Like you see the qigong in in China, and you see like those Gurdjieffian movements. So like it kind of reminded me of the way that cults will use collective practices like that to kind of sweep people up
Yep.
in a mood.
1000%. That's a great observation. That's exactly what they do. So yeah, this ecstatic state, at least in contemporary times, the shate or shat, has become kind of a marketing gimmick. So Suhrawardi would be extremely critical of contemporary spiritual scenes for that particular reason. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's just all I was thinking of, is how he'd probably be turning in his grave to see
Yeah.
some of it doled out that way. Um, and then I thought that in the 21st verse, when he's talking about the essence of the first, the light of every light, and how it's not a light that's perceived, it has no sense.
Mhm.
It reminded me a lot of this is a really popular passage. Late have I loved you. It's by St. Augustine. And he uses very similar language in that, where he says, he beheld what was beyond his highest spirit, God's immutable light alone, not the ordinary light perceptible unto all flesh, or anything of greater magnitude comparable to it, but it was shining more clearly and diffusing itself everywhere. No, it was something entirely distinct from all of those things. Above me as the heavens above the earth, because it had made me. Whosoever comes to know the truth knows well this light. And I just, God loves light. That's how it goes, I guess. But it just reminded me of that language of a light that is beyond perception, because it created perception. It encompasses perception. But what I like about all these exhalations of light is that it still posits that there's a way to receive it, if not perceive it, then to receive it. The light that's beyond perception.
Indeed. Indeed. Very well put.
Thanks. Those are my only two thoughts, really.
No worries. Thank you. Jeff?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, it's a fine line, isn't it? Between going through the motions and coming out the other side. I'm not sure how to phrase that, but I mean, when you talk about ecstasy or drunkenness or highness, even, or, the Gurdjieffian dancing and all that sort of thing. Like, I mean, there are exercises which have a role to play, or there's something about the ecstasy or the dance or the singing or whatever it might be. But there's of course a fine line between uh I'm not even sure how to say what I'm trying to say, but you can't dispense
No,
with
we're not. That's not the point. That's not the point at all.
Mhm.
This first of the litanies basically puts its hand over this issue in a couple of different ways. In our current times, we're kind of losing any notion of, the private and the public. Okay. Up until maybe 20, 30, 50 years ago, if you made the example to someone, well, just as you don't broadcast your intimate life in your bedroom to the world, you don't, do such and such. Well, nowadays we got the whole porn industry is broadcasting the private lives of everybody and their dog, publicly. But the point he's trying to make is that the feigning of ecstasy, right? Public displays of it,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, like pray.
Overdone, where you use that ecstasy as the gimmick itself. That becomes the end to draw people in, right? Look at me, look at me, look at me. That the ecstasy is a form of validation that is the problem. If you have vicar circles, if you have, whether it be in the whirling form or whether it be in the other forms that they do in Iran, but it is only amongst that particular circle of people engaged. They know each other. There's an issue of spiritual camaraderie or intimacy between the people. That's fine in displays of that kind of ecstasy. Just don't make a gimmick of validation out of it.
Yeah, right.
Because
exactly.
there's more beyond the ecstasy. The ecstasy itself is kind of a stage. Ibn Arabi has a ton to say about that, as does Rumi. Rumi has this hilarious story in the Masnavi about this extremely poor mendicant who only owns a single donkey, and he comes upon a group of Sufis, right, who take him in, feed him, but with the caveat that he has to do zikr with them. And when he does zikr with them, one of the zikrs that they use was that the donkey has gone, the donkey has gone, the donkey has gone, right? And this guy, this mendicant himself, would be chanting, the donkey has gone, and get more and more ecstatic. Then a few days later, he comes out of the hospice and finds that there's no trace of his donkey. And he says, well, what happened? What happened to my donkey? And he says, and they tell him, well, what do you mean, what happened to your donkey? You were screaming at the top of your own lungs that the donkey went that way. What we did is we took your donkey and we fed it to you. We all had a meal from your donkey. And you yourself were chanting in the highest voice, the donkey left, the donkey left, the donkey left. This is the kind of situations that you find with people who feign or pretend to ecstasy. So this is what he is, the shatet, the one who is, who wears the persona of the ecstatic.
Right.
This is what
yeah, exactly. And to be honest, I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say, but it wasn't so much that. I mean, that goes almost without saying, at least to me anyways. I'm talking about even in private, like even in one's own private practice or private experiences where no one's looking.
Yeah.
You go through motions of ecstasy and
yeah, sure.
And the opposite of that, you get drunk sometimes and then you sober up and it's the fine line in between.
All of that is okay. All of that is that when he uses the specific, he doesn't say there's two words in Arabic that describe an ecstatic time. One is wajid, which also comes from the same root of wajada and wujud, to find an existence. And then there is the shat or shate, the one who that word has a very technical meaning in Sufism. A great Shirazi Sufi master by the name of Usbahan Bagli, a contemporary Suhrawardis, wrote an entire treatise about this. These are ecstatic sayings, paradoxical saying, that sort of thing. But when you call someone a shateh in this world of Sufism, you have something very distinctly clear in mind. It's that those people who wear the ecstatic label as a persona and then make all kinds of boasts and say very silly things and that sort of thing, turn themselves into the kind of the jester of the town kalanda, and they make their living that way. Okay, right? These things were very prevalent once upon a time in the Muslim world. They could or could not have been an actual calendar. Usually real calendars would not congregate the society of people, but these ones did. Right? Okay. So this is what he is putting his finger on, because that kind of persona usually, not always, but usually does not possess spiritual sincerity.
Right. Okay, understood. Okay, that's pretty much all I could think of to say at the moment, because really I don't have any questions, and I have to say, I'm not even, I don't know if there's any point in admitting this, but I haven't even finished reading everything. Like, I'm still only halfway through the introduction, and I haven't even looked at your glosses yet, to be honest. So just finding the time, I don't know how you managed to complete this work. To be honest, it's overwhelming just to look at, let alone I'm trying to imagine being you, who's the one who's making it happen.
A lot
So
of sleepless nights and about 28 years worth of, pre-existing work ready to be cobbled together and molded into a publication.
I
Yeah.
imagine. Well, congratulations. It's amazing. But yeah, it's quite it's quite something. And I'm kind of a slow reader. Like I have this weird thing where I have to read everything almost twice just before can even like engage with it on the right level. And so it takes me a long time to get through
No worries.
even
I
short stuff.
as I said in the intro, I put this book together not as kind of a book to, read once and shelf. This is something I deliberately designed. It has a scholarly format, but primarily I want it to be used. And it's also the reason why I used specifically this kind of King Jamesian diction of language as I did. Because it elevates and it's something that you can go back to and contemplate and think about like people do with the Bible. I mean,
Right, exactly.
as as I say in the intro,
Yeah.
first of all, this was a book that these are litanies and liturgies that Suhrawardi most definitely wrote after he wrote his Hikmet al-Ishraq, and he wants this thing to be taken as a form of scripture.
Right.
So if that is the case, then this is how we will treat it.
Exactly. And I can see why you want to look at it now before we get to the Hikmat al-Ashraq, because we're not just talking about ordinary philosophy here. I mean, we're talking about something much higher, obviously. And this is the point where, yeah, okay. Well, I'm really starting to get a taste of what you're talking about there. So point made already. And but yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. But thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome. Anybody else want to say anything? Have any insights?
Sidi, first of all, again, thank you for this. It is literally treasury of Ishraqi wisdom, indeed.
Yes.
The Arabic with all the harakat and the wabit, easy to read. The English translation, very beautiful style and wording. Gloss is so encompassing and enlightening. The introductions, just everything we can dream of, it is packed here in one. Again, I know you already answered that even if we take a whole lifetime to decipher all the wisdom of this book, it would not be enough. Nevertheless, if we take it, at least for me, in a smaller portion, it will be easier for me at least to give it enough thought and enough depth. The other things, when I read through the prayers, instantly it reminds me about Kiss al-Ghurba al-Ghurbiya. That it is somehow in the same style,
Great
but it is
observation. Yes.
replete with Quranic archetypes, not only Quranic, as you were saying, Zoroastrian, also Bible, Hermetic, and so on. It is just you can take one paragraph of all these prayers, read it time after time after time, meditate upon it, and it is wonderful.
It is. It is.
I had some paragraphs mark, but just as sentences which I was highly impressed with them, not so much as questions. For example, you commented many times here about the shatahat. The impression I take from the paragraph, it is the comparison between the fly on one side and then the celestial hierarchy and God Himself. In sense that not that so much this person feigns ecstasy, but something else. This person is goes into state of sukr, that his ghost drunkard from so small thing like a fly, but there are others who take so much of the divine manifestation as big as the seas and the skies and so on, and even then they remain to be sober, to
Yeah.
be sahu, it is in Arabic. And that is the thing which shows that they are much higher level than the first one.
100%. I totally, yes. Yes, I have actually beheld this in real life in many different, Dhikr circles. We even, Nuria and I even saw it the last time we were in Iran when we went to these secret gatherings all throughout, different cities that we were visiting in Iran. And you have the same issue over there, even, under the Islamic Republic, where people are even criticizing Muharram, and the kind of sometimes the really exaggerated and, crazy stuff like with the tatbir that happens. It becomes a real bloodfest. At times really grotesque. I mean, the questions of its being listed or not to one side, but a lot of this is performance. There's no ecstasy involved, not genuine ecstasy. Even if there is, it's very small. It's not, because Ruzbahan says something very important at one point during his Shara Shatiyat. He says exactly what you said, but he expands that wisdom and he says that, that the light of God, when it comes, right, in that form, will shatter you. You have nothing more to display of yourself. Your ego is gone. So an ego that is gone cannot but just sit in the corner and just be like completely overwhelmed. That is the real ecstasy. Not these who are, displaying and saying silly things and, trying to, do various things and just you wear the persona of the ecstatic. Now he says that when that light comes, you are shattered. You cannot even express yourself anymore at that point. All you do is just sit in a corner somewhere and contemplate. That's it. So that is what a real ecstatic is. That is the wajid, not the shate. This is the distinction that Suhrawardi is subtly making.
Another thing you also already commented upon it, but again, the symbolic of water and fire, and what you have said, the ablution, it was the thing which immediately come upon my mind, that you can be drowned in water, you can go to the bath to wash yourself hundreds times a day, but if it is not paired with at least some kind of illumination, it doesn't matter at all. Because in the ritual of ablution, it is not only washing the organs. For every organ, there is a short litany which is recited. For example, when washing the face, we pray that our face becomes radiant, purified from darkness, and so on. When, for example, upon the head, we pray from Allah Ta'ala to descend His mercy upon us. If the spiritual light is not combined with the physical ritual, it is just useless ritual. But even more, the motor, the engine of this all should be the fire, which I here take to be a symbol of the love, which is also mentioned. If all of this is not motivated by divine love, it is utterly useless.
And this is the very important distinction that we have to keep in mind. The love. An ecstatic who is displaying their ecstasy does not love God. They love themselves. So their nafs, their ego, is what makes them ecstatic, not God. Whereas a wajid, a true ecstatic, right, They are moving towards ecstasy because of the real, right? And that is why they have a shattering experience every time the light shows up, as Wujbahan tells us. So they don't need to display anything. There's nothing to display by that person.
So it is by definition something intimate between the person and God. Another thing which I liked very much, his criticism of dualism, which is made by the language of symbols. It is not, how to say, in the stupid, superficial language of the mutakallimin, oh, there are people stupid, how can be there two gods? If there were two, they would go to war with one another, so on. But it is just presented with a few beautiful symbols and then leave the reader to reflect upon them and take his own conclusion. For example, he's saying, those who set up equals have forged for a God partner. Dualism stands a curse upon the tongue of illumination, Ishraq. And then he's giving his answer in three simple analogies. No body bears two hearts. The first symbolic answer. No frame, two souls. The second symbolic answer. And no heavens, two suns. And the third symbolic answer. And that's all. Very like this manner of, how to say, conversation with other type of ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just to add a last
but look,
one.
Look how he does this. Look how he does it. In the previous passage, in the third passage, he criticizes dualism, right? And then in the next passage, he tells you how to avoid it. Unify God. Wahad Allah. Become brimmed with the light of exaltation. And how does that done? He says it right at the very first verse. Unleash the dhikr. Sanctify God in the supreme luminary, and upon the one of the twin horizons unveil remembrance.
Yes, very beautiful. And the one more which there are many things which impressed me. But for example, here in prayer number 10, just one sentence, that whoso abases that which God hath exalted among the worlds, God shall seize him for his ingratitude. And also, as you have explained in the glosses, that we should avoid this kind of metaphysical blasphemy. Making very strict difference between what is God and what is created, and devoiding created things completely from God. Here, Sheikh Suhrawardi is affirming the spiritual hierarchy, and that that we, how to say, exalting, for example, the hierarchy of angels, taking them for intermediaries and so on. This is not shirk. Exactly the opposite. It is the fullest form of Tawhid, because we recognize the unity of the whole existence.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That's basically it. I once said in the local mosque here to this Salafi sheikh, who was extremely annoying individual. He was talking about shirk this, shirk that, shirk this, and the other. The mihrab at this mosque was a perfectly oval-shaped mihrab. And I pointed out to this guy, I said, do you realize that the oval is the shape of a woman, and in ancient societies, the oval shape that all of our mihrabs are designed by actually is a representation, a geometric representation of goddesses. Astaghfirullah al-azim. I said, well, go look at the books. I'm not making this up. I recommend, I said, look at this book, look at this book, look at this book. I said, you're bowing to the goddess. So you can talk about shirk all you want. When you take a tasbih in your hand and you're reciting names of God, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha, you're still, in a sense, your fingers are worshiping the beads, which are made of wood. So we haven't actually escaped real shirk, have we? Astaghfir. I said, well, say whatever you want. This is, your logic taken to its extreme leads to this very thing that even condemns yourself as being a mushrik. So maybe you want to expand your horizons a little bit. And he said, well, what should I do? I said, go take all of your entire library of Ibn Taymiyyah and throw it into the fire. And let me recommend you go read Muhyiddin ibn Arabi instead. And he just walked away, wouldn't talk to me. And then he apparently told a couple of people, don't let this kafir into our mosque ever again.
I think it is very unfortunate that in the official kind of Islamic religion, that it has very flat understanding of what is monotheism.
Yeah,
Uh,
it unfortunately
just
does. It
deprives us from the all of richness of
Yeah.
of pantheism, let's say.
It does, and I think, you get versions of it in the Shia world, but not in the extreme form that where you find it amongst a lot of Sunnis, unless they're Sufis. If they're Sufis, and they're exposed to this kind of stuff, whether in its Akbarian form or even those of their own mashayikh, they're kind of immune, inoculated from that kind of thinking. But if they're exotericists, and especially if they follow either a Hanafi or Hanbali, madhab, I mean, in a sense, they are almost schizophrenic. Everything is shirk, everything is bid'ah, they're constantly afraid of even existing, Yeah.
And just to read one last, just to find it. It is here, number 16. Number 16 in the beginning. Seek, it is the second sentence. Seek through the fashioner of all in the nearest, in the nearness of the nearest. To it be in the highest height, in majesty and might. So this sentence took me directly to the Hayakil Nur, when is given the analogy of series of mirrors. In the beginning, it is the light of light, Allah Ta'ala. In the end, we are the last of the series of mirror. And the Shaykh explains, do not think if you are last in the series that you are furthest from the God.
Okay.
You are furthest if you are counting the mirrors.
Yeah.
But you are in exactly the same time the most close to God, because the light which is in the mirror, it is nevertheless the
same
light.
light. It's the light of lights itself.
Same light,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And this is exactly this advice that he gives here. Because, if you take certain elements of this sort of cosmology, if you take it strictly in the Avicennan sense, then there's no resemblance, so therefore we cannot really do the saluk. Why even strive? Become like Avicenna himself, drink wine until your liver gives out. But Suhrawardi is saying, no, actually, there's the reason why, that even though, the light of lights is the ultimate and it's transcendent and, unreachable, all of that, but yet it is nearest to you than anything else. So seek that light in yourself and you find the light of lights right in front of you. Because the only way to find God, I mean, this is also a gloss on that hadith. You cannot find God in any other vehicle but your own vehicle, which is yourself. Okay, and this is also in my opinion, it's a burhan against ideology, right? You cannot find the truth in somebody else's ideology. You have to find the truth in that which is imprinted in you, in yourself. Well, what does that mean? Well, then that means the suluk. So you take all the illusions in your own mind away to then encounter your own self in that God with it. Not even as a subjective psychological thing, although that's part of it, but in a real existential epistemic way.
Thank you very much, Sidi.
No problem. No problem at all. Anybody want to speak who hasn't spoken today? Nate, if you're there. No? All right. Okay. Well, we'll leave it then here for today. For these liturgies. For next time, let's try to read the next 3. Once these liturgies are finished and we start to get into the prayers, we'll get through the whole book pretty quickly. And then right afterwards, we'll start the Hikmet al-Ishraq itself. So let's leave it here for today. And for those of you coming tomorrow to the Ibn Arabi course, we're doing Noah. The chapter of Noah is next, which is the great controversial chapter. Segues very well with this here because of what Ibn Arabi says about Noah and transcendence and immanence. So until tomorrow, for those of you coming, I'll see you tomorrow. If you're not coming tomorrow, then I'll see you next week. Yahak.